This podcast is brought to you by AutoVision and its new AI assistant, Avery. Avery delivers data-driven appraisals, pricing, and detailed strategies for every vehicle. Visit AutoVision.com to learn more about Avery, where precision meets profit.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, GM takes $1.5 billion charge on its EV realignment. Toyota taps Century as its top luxury brand, even above Lexus. And Chinese auto shipments expand for the 8th straight month. Plus, Pinewood.AI is ready to launch its blitz into the US DMS market. Our own Mark Homer joins the show to talk about those plans and the risk involved.
You have to convince people that something that's untested is going to be worth the risk.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry. General Motors says it faces $1.6 billion in charges related to paring back electric vehicle production plans. GM made the statement in a regulatory filing today. It says $1.2 billion of that is from non-cash impairment and other charges related to adjustments to EV capacity. It says the rest of the costs are related to canceling contracts and settling commercial arrangements linked to EV investments and will have a cash impact. GM warned the reassessment of its EV manufacturing footprint is ongoing and that it's reasonably possible it will face more charges that hurt its results in quarters to come. Toyota plans to position its Century luxury line as the automaker's new top brand, even above Lexus. Toyota kicked off the brand repositioning by teasing the slick, sporty concept in a video discussing the company's plans for the Japan Mobility Show this month. The concept evokes the Rolls-Royce Spectre or Bentley Continental GT. Toyota envisions Century, which is sold almost exclusively in Japan, as a standalone brand. And China light vehicle shipments expanded for the 8th consecutive month in September on robust exports and government trade-in subsidies. According to the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, shipments advanced 13% to almost 2.9 million vehicles. September exports of light vehicles climbed 22% to around 560,000 vehicles. And those are today's headlines. You can find more details on all those stories at autonews.com. Last week, we reported that GM was canceling its next-gen hydrogen program. Today, our own Richard Truitt has a column on autonews.com explaining why. He joins me now to talk about it. Richard, welcome back to Daily Drive.
Hey, Cal, how are you?
I'm good, buddy. So, you write that it isn't the technology, engineering, manufacturing, or performance obstacles of fuel cells. What is it?
Specifically, it's the fact that they have created an automotive powertrain for which there is no fuel for, essentially. Just so that everybody knows what a fuel cell is, it's basically a device that produces electricity. So a fuel cell car is an electric car, but instead of the electricity coming from batteries, the electricity comes from a chemical reaction that is derived from hydrogen. Now, in California, that's where the hope was that hydrogen would get a little bit of a foothold. But in California, there are only 49 stations open, and that's if they're working reliably and you drive a hydrogen car, you might be able to fill up. And so I think if you look at read between the lines of what GM said, it's that the fuel infrastructure is not developing, and they don't see any hope for that to happen. So instead of developing the next generation of fuel cells, they're just going to stand pat with what they have. They're not pulling the plug on it. They're not closing it down and going out of business. They're just not going to invest in the next generation of it.
Interesting. So you also note that GM's decision had to be tough in part because no other automaker has invested more or worked longer to bring fuel cells to the market, going back 6 decades with the world's first fuel cell vehicle. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah, early in my career here at Automotive News, I got to meet Dr. Craig Marks. He's passed away now, but back in the 1960s, he was the guy in charge at GM with developing fuel cell vehicles. He was essentially handed a blank check and told, make this work in a vehicle. So he took a mid-sized GM van from the 1960s called the GMC Handy Van. And he and 200 engineers worked with Union Carbide, and they made the world's first fuel cell powered vehicle. They only drove it one time because, Cal, I got to use some language here. They were scared it was going to blow up. They drove it one time on the tech center and parked it. But they proved that it could work. And throughout the years and the decades, GM has been, hammering away on making fuel cells better, meaning smaller and more cost efficient and more powerful. And they essentially accomplished that. But with taking a look at how the struggle is just to get a nationwide network of reliable, electric car chargers going, GM has concluded that there's no way that they're going to invest in a hydrogen fueling infrastructure. So that's pretty much the reason why it's coming to an end.
Well, I hope this isn't the last of fuel cells. Richard, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, Cal.
And you can find Richard's column, Why GM Had to Make the Tough Call to End Fuel Cell Development, at autonews.com. Coming up, Pinewood.AI's plan to enter the US DMS market is very bold and could be very risky. We'll talk about it next on Daily Drive.
Automotive News Shift podcast brings you the latest on automotive technology, trends, and transformation. I'm Hannah Lutz.
And I'm Molly Boygon. We're the new co-hosts of Shift, and we're excited to bring you new conversations with experts and industry insiders like this one with Larry Dominique, president of LD Management Consulting.
I do believe the legacy OEMs are falling into a trap. They've got to find a way to, in some ways, build a new airplane while they're still in flight.
Catch Shift, available every Sunday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Just when you think you've priced a vehicle perfectly to sell fast, the market changes and potential profit slips through your fingers. After all the work of scouring auction sites, tracking competitor rates, and analyzing market trends, the loss of time and money leaves you frustrated. Meet Avery, your AI assistant from AutoVision. Avery revolutionizes how you acquire, price, and sell vehicles by analyzing every detail, from retail values to market trends. And the best part? Avery doesn't just give you numbers, it explains every recommendation, so you know everything that was factored in. Picture this: faster appraisals, smarter stocking decisions, and more profitable sales, all without the exhausting legwork. With Avery, you don't just stay competitive, you lead the pack. Ready to see Avery in action? Visit autovision.com.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Kellen Walker. Pinewood.AI is launching its own British invasion of the North American dealership management system market. Mark Homer covers retail tech for us at Automotive News. He spoke with our own Jake Neer about Pinewood's big plans and the risk involved.
Mark Homer, always great to have you here on Daily Drive.
Thanks for having me again.
So I think that most of our listeners probably are familiar with Pinewood because of their relationship with the largest dealership group in the U.S., that's Lithia, and the deal that came about not too long ago, the deals, I should say, regarding both of those groups. Remind us what happened there with Lithia and the services that Pinewood provides.
Basically, Pinewood is a dealership management system company, and they're interesting because they're AI-based, they're cloud-based. It's a lot of new bells and whistles that many of the other DMS players haven't had to this degree, other than maybe the startup Techion. So Pinewood had a parent company, a dealership in the UK. Lithia acquired that company and spun off Pinewood. And now that Pinewood is spun off, it's pursuing what will be a fairly aggressive expansion in the U.S.
And so I assume that means that basically all of Lithia's dealers are going to be using Pinewood. Is that a fair statement?
Over time, yes. And this is a 5-year contract situation, but it's going to take some time to switch over systems. So it's going to take a couple of years, probably through 2028, for Pinewood to be in all Lithia dealerships.
So you write in your story that they are planning a, quote, British invasion of the U.S. dealership management system space. What exactly are they plotting here beyond what we just talked about with Lithia?
Well, once they get through with Lithia, the largest publicly traded dealership group in the U.S., they're going to pursue everybody else. And they're hoping to convert several hundred dealerships annually after that point. That's interesting because the dealership management system market in the US hasn't really changed much in many, many years. CDK Global still has at least 60% of the market. Cox and Reynolds have decent shares as well. They fight for second and third place, and then there are several other smaller players. And then there's Techion, which is similar to Pinewood because it has a lot of advanced technology. It's cloud-based, it's AI. It's a lot, they say, more elegant than the other competitors. So Pinewood will be competing with Techion, but also all the others. So it'll be an interesting addition to the market.
Well, and as you just sort of outlined there, I mean, the US DMS ecosystem is already pretty crowded, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's interesting because it's not an easy market to break. As we've talked about, there are several companies in the space. Dealerships sign contracts that last 5 years. So to get them to change, you have to work at them for a long time or find potential customers that are at that point where they're going to switch potentially to something else. The switch is also difficult because to move over data and other operational stuff is an investment of time and money that's significant.
And you spoke about this exact issue with Matthew Guillory, CEO of DMS consulting firm Guillory Institute. What did he have to say about it?
Matt Guillory works with dealerships and helps them install and navigate DMS systems. So he follows the market and has followed the market for quite some time. And I think he's surprised and actually quite interested that there's a new company that's going to try to make a dent. But he's also aware of the obstacles.
I think it's an exciting move. It's surprising that they are doing it. I think the U.S. market is already pretty crowded with vendors. But I do think it's exciting, and I think having Lithia as their partner, even if it's not like financially official anymore, I think it gives them a little bit of an advantage. But I am surprised that now would be the time that they would try to do it.
It's interesting that he says the timing is an issue because it's not necessarily something you just jump into. You have to work with dealerships. You have to cultivate relationships and build interest within the context of those longer contracts. So timing is key here, and to just jump in is risky.
Well, that goes right into my next question. With the space so crowded, as we already talked about, with the timing of it, how risky is this, if at all?
There's a lot at stake because it's easier to stick with something that you're not quite happy with or happy enough with than to try something new. And you have to convince people that something that's untested is going to be worth the risk and the money and the time. And that's not an easy task. Here's what Guillory had to say.
I think the risk is high. Here's one scenario. They go in there, they build something that makes a ton of sense for Lithia, and then they try to take it out to the broader market in, 2 to 3 years. At this point, Techion's firing on all cylinders. CDK's been doing some revamping and doing really well. Reynolds, which, is solid now, is still very solid. There's Dealer Track Plus is out, and there's just no appetite for this, right? And even if it's like a solid system, they come out in 3 years and they just don't have anything that's really just, causing them to stand out. And it's kind of one of those like, yeah, this is good, but there's just already so many good systems out there. Like the number of dealerships isn't like expanding at some unusually high rate. And so there's definitely a world where we just don't need another DMS.
So, Mark, you also write that we will get sort of a preview of sorts of Pinewood's Blitz at the upcoming NADA show in Las Vegas in February. What can we expect from that?
That's going to be interesting because this is the show for the retail automotive industry. And they wouldn't say a whole lot of details, but Pinewood CEO confirmed to me that they're spending like 7 figures on a massive display and an entrance, into the show and into this market. It's their introduction to the industry. and they're going in it with a sizable investment and probably a lot of flair. And so we can look forward to their debut and how the others react to their presence there.
Definitely something to look forward to. I know I'll be there. You'll be there. We will get lots of coverage, I'm sure, of that plan, and maybe try to talk to them a little bit more at NADA in February about it. Looking forward to that. Mark Holmer, really appreciate your reporting on this subject. The name of the piece is UK's Pinewood.AI plans a splashy US DMS debut. You can find that at autonews.com. Mark Holmer, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to automotive news journalists Richard Truitt, Hans Greimel, Nato Akamura, and Yang John for their reporting for today's podcast. You can get the latest news on retail tech, manufacturing, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com. Come back tomorrow for a conversation with Cox Automotive President Steve Rowley.
I believe personally, artificial intelligence in my lifetime is the biggest lightning rod that you will ever experience in technology.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoyed the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.